Hi, I'm Singhan Chan. I will be discussing the paper entitled The Effects of Group Composition in a Strategic Environment, Evidence from a Field Experiment, written by John A. List, William S. Nielsen, and Michael K. Price, and published in European Economic Review. But first, let me ask you, how do you mostly go through your decisions? For instance, when you decide whether to buy something or not. Do you simply internalize them on your own? Or do you consult your group of friends about your choice and follow what the majority is? No matter what you choose, research says that both are valid, but it is individual decision making that has been the focus on most studies. This is despite past economic researches that recognize the importance of group membership on both individual behavior and market outcomes. In particular, the role of group identity is contextualized in its ability to increase cooperation. Groups may not always yield the ideal cooperation, just like in university group works. Have you experienced this? Yes? No? Sometimes the reason may be because members in a group are not close friends and are thus harder to work with, or there is no communication among the group mates, that is why there is no cooperation. In the paper published by John List and his colleagues, these factors are used in an attempt to answer how group composition can affect the seller's ability to cooperate in their pricing behavior. The question being answered is, what are the effects of factors of group formation in sellers to stability of cooperation? First, pre-period communication. If sellers were allowed to communicate before the market opens, will there be greater cooperation to impose the desired prices? Second, having an ongoing relationship among sellers. If sellers came from the same bargaining markets and have interacted for a period of time before, will there be greater agreement in cooperation of price they will sell their products? And finally, if the group of sellers came from the same race or not, will there be an influence on the stability of cooperation of prices? Answering these questions will depend on the method of the study. In determining the influence of group composition to cooperation, the researchers adopted a framed field experiment of a multilateral bargaining market. These were conducted on real-life ongoing sports car shows and open-air flea market. Before the experimental procedure, steps were taken to acquire the subjects. Step 1. The subjects were drawn from real ongoing bargaining markets. Monitors approached vendors and buyers whether they wanted to participate in a 60 minutes experiment. 2. If they agreed, they are asked where they are from and whether they had been frequent sellers in the location in the past. This will serve as identifiers for the insiders and outsiders and to establish racial difference and similarity later on. 3. The monitor gathered the vendors or buyers to read the instruction. Each seller or buyer was handed their seller's and buyer's card. Then, the experimental procedure. In this experiment, we have sellers and buyers as subjects. Prior to the start of each round, sellers will be provided a seller's card. The number on the seller's card is known as their cost. Your cost represents the minimum amount for which you can sell a unit. This information contained on the seller's card is strictly private and a seller's costs may change each round. Sellers earn money by selling units at prices that are above their cost. Earnings from the sale of each unit are the difference between the sale price and the cost. For example, if a seller has a cost of $10 and sells their unit for $15, they earn $5. If a seller does not sell their unit, they earn exactly zero that round. The same goes for buyers. Buyers will also be provided a buyer's card. The number of the buyer's card is known as their value. Your value is represents the maximum amount for which you can purchase a unit. The information contained on the buyer's card is strictly private and a buyer's value may change each round. So if a buyer has a value of $20 and buys a unit for $12, they earn $8. If a buyer does not buy a unit, they earn exactly zero that round. In addition, a commission of 25 cents to both the buyer and seller for each unit traded is given. So, the sellers and buyers are set. Each trading lasts for 5 minutes. Buyers and sellers cannot negotiate a sale above their value and below their cost, thus no negative earnings. After every trade, a monitor is informed of the price and their trade price is called out for other participants. The study followed this experimental design. From here, we can see 4 groups: no communication, communication insiders, communication non-majority outsider, communication majority outsider. To explain, no communication consisted of 4 sessions with all insider vendors and no communication allowed between sellers. Each market has 12 buyers and 4 sellers, where each can buy or sell 3 units maximum, and so on. It should also be noted that no subject participated in more than one session. After conducting the aforementioned experimental method, these were the results of the study. In total, they reported 4 results regarding the effect of group composition on cooperation. First, result 1 is about group formation and the stability of cooperation. They examined whether allowing explicit pre-period communication among sellers can affect the ability to cooperate. There was a significant relationship. As seen on the graph, the group communication insider, consisting of all insider sellers who were allowed to communicate, showed average prices that are significantly higher than those observed in our baseline market of no communication and are remarkably stable across periods. This tells us that when a group composes all insider vendors, high or anti-competitive pricing is consistent throughout all market periods. Thus, their cooperation is a success. Moreover, it suggests that communication is the key driver of collusion. The second result discusses pricing decisions in markets with an outside seller. In this figure that displays the trading prices, average prices in the pooled outsider treatments are significantly higher than those in no communication treatment. The $2.48 difference in average prices obtained by subtracting 16.24 and 13.76 is statistically significant at the p less than 0.05 level, which means that in the experiment, sellers in markets with an outsider were found to be unable to cooperate to impose a single price across market periods. In connection to this, the third result shows the pricing dynamics in the same outsider markets. It was found that a majority of outsider markets displayed patterns of trade consistent with the model of benchmarking. The use of such strategies impacts prices and trade volume in early market periods. Yet, the effect of benchmarking is short-lived and erodes in later market periods. Finally, result number 4 demonstrates the effect of seller composition on the stability of benchmarks. It was reported that across all market periods, average prices in benchmarked sessions of the communication majority outsider treatment are greater than those in benchmarked sessions of the communication non-majority outsider treatment. In all market periods, these observed differences are statistically significant at the p less than 0.05 level using a two-sample t-test. The experiment revealed that in outsider markets with benchmarking, the racial composition of seller groups impacts the stability of cooperation and pricing dynamics. But in outsider markets without benchmarking, dynamics are unaffected by the composition of seller groups. Thus, this emphasizes that trust among the sellers was harder to build due to racial composition. In turn, this resulted to instability of cooperative arrangements. In conclusion, List and his colleagues did find correlations between group composition and stability of cooperation in market outcomes, such that when an outsider joins the seller group, coordination fails, leading to a convergence towards competitive or lower prices. Next, data suggests that both the stability of cooperation and associated pricing dynamics in such markets depend on the racial composition of sellers. Lastly, cooperation is possible in a repeated game if one can construct a group of only insiders in an ongoing relationship. These conclusions reflect compelling implications. First, the findings suggest a new reason why fractionalized countries have lower growth, and also why more ethnically diverse US cities have smaller spending shares on productive public goods. It also suggests that groups with these ethnic and linguistic differences face more difficult strategic challenges when attempting to cooperate, making it more difficult to take advantage of economic opportunities. It should also be noted that bilateral trust affects patterns of trade and investment flows amongst European nations. In the study, insiders tend to trust outsiders less than other insiders, and that the presence of outsiders is therefore viewed as a factor that deters cooperation and serves to crowd out potentially profitable actions. But What the paper highlights is how insiders are willing to make costly efforts to learn about the behavior of outsiders. Following that, when low trust environments lead to lower equilibrium rates of growth, it is required that agents must undertake efforts to learn about the trustworthiness of others. Thank you so much.